Hello, my name is Sharon, and I'm going to talk to you about how to do with the Karens in life, whether it's at work or any place else. I'm 55 years old. I'm a mom of 5 kids. I've been married for 26 years, so I've been around long enough in life to learn a few things about how to deal with Karens. When I was 19 years old, I started one of my first jobs at a very well known jewelry store. And I won't say the name of where I work because everyone would know the name of the store, James Avery Craftsman, but I won't say the name. But and I've dealt with Karens at work when I was young and 19 and working for minimum age with no commission. It was a lot more difficult then than it is now in life. After, when I was young and didn't know how to deal with it. So, I, worked at, James Avery Jewelry Store, and sometimes we'd have a Karen that would come in, the I want to talk to the manager type. And so while I was a young sales clerk, when I was only 19 years old, a lot of times I would say, I want to talk to the manager. I learned some things about how to deal with them. Like, for one, when a when a Karen, or I apologize to the lady's name, Karen, that would be offended by this. I don't mean to offend them, except for my next door neighbor whose name is Karen, and she is a Karen. But yeah, as I was saying, um, uh, people would come in and say, I want to talk to the manager, and then sometimes people would go and talk to the manager and complain about me, and I found out later, how to be more, professional in business, so that the Karens won't complain as often. And I would see them, go in and not only just me, but when they want to talk, to the manager about other sales clerks there as well. And then, after they spent a long time sitting and talking in the manager's office, they would come out, walk out all chummy with the manager, and they would be just smiling and laughing with each other. And it made me feel really bad because I knew the manager was going to talk to me about what they complained about. So, one thing I learned, coping skills, something I learned at church, how to deal with people, is first of all, you listen to them, let them talk uninterrupted for 5 or 10 minutes, and sometimes it might take 20 minutes. Sometimes it might take 40 minutes or even longer. But just first you listen to them, let them talk without interrupting. Don't say anything. Just listen to them talk for at least 5 or 10 minutes without saying anything, without interrupting. Let them get it all out. Let them vent. Say their problem, and then you can then try to paraphrase what they said. So, say, "Are you saying?" And then try to paraphrase them, and they might say, "No, that's not what I'm saying." And they might reword it, and then you try again to paraphrase them. And so, but the thing is, after people talk for at least 5 or 10 minutes after they vent, then they calm down. Main thing is they want to be heard. And then another thing is, sometimes, a lot of times, the Karens have just had a bad day. We all have a bad day, and we have basically all been a Karen at times. There have been times we've been that way too. They might be hungry. Something might have happened at the beginning of their day that just set the tone, for them to lash out at a sales clerk. That happens a lot, and so when they found out, sometimes when I talk to the manager, sometimes they'd say, "Well, actually, I just had a bad day," and sometimes they would even come back and apologize to us. When we were nice to them, they felt real bad about the way they acted. They overreacted, or they just lashed out because they had a bad day, and then they felt bad about it, felt guilty. and they would come back and apologize to us, and that would make us feel really good. So, and dealing with customers at work, I found out to have good communication skills with them. Like as a sales clerk, I would have to write out receipts and write out repair orders for jewelry and engraving orders and such. And so, one of my fellow sales clerks, she taught me, to talk to the customer, ask after you write out, when you write out the order, say, is this how you want it done? And they might say, because when they tell the sales clerk how they want it done, they might not give very clear information, like how they want something engraved or something. And then they'll say, oh no, that's not what I want, this is what I want. And then they say it more clearly. And then you write it out and then show it to them, say, okay, is this what you want? And then they agree to it. And that way you're communicating. But when I used to write sales orders, I didn't communicate, I would just write it down. And then they would say, I want to talk to the manager, and then found out that I didn't write it the way they wanted. But anyway, if I could have avoided that, if I would have just communicated with them, saying, is this what you want? And you can apply that to other things in life, just having good communication skills. And then I remember there was one day at work that I heard about a lady that came in the store. I wasn't there. I was not there that day, but I heard about it. This lady came in stomping in the store, was in a bad mood, and they said she was a horse of a lady, and just in a bad mood, and they were talking about her, laughing about her because of the way she acted. And then later that lady came back and apologized, said she was having a bad day and she felt really bad about it, apologized. And then everybody loved that customer for apologizing, and they just talked on and on about it, how nice it was for her to apologize. And I loved her too, and I didn't even meet the woman, and I loved her for coming in and apologize. That's so rare. And some people, they have different reasons for it, lashing out at you. I remember there was one family that they came in just to basically mess with us. There was family, there was a couple of teenage girls, and then the parents. The whole family would come in and just give us a hard time, messing with us. They would ask to look at the cheapest charms in the store, $12 charms. They'd spend an hour and a half in the store and not buy anything, and then come back another day and another day and another day, same thing, same scenario, and they're making rude comments to us the whole time and not buying anything. And then one day that a girl in that family was in the store, one of the teenage girls, and the clerk that waited on her she was a kindergarten teacher, a retired kindergarten teacher, and she got so frustrated with this lady, she said, I just wanted to slap that lady. And we were really shocked because we had never seen this kindergarten teacher unravel before. So some people can just get on your nerves, and some people just like to mess with people, but we continue to stay nice to them because we would have gotten fired otherwise, and they eventually got tired of messing with us and just quit coming around. And then also you got to watch out for people like your fellow sales clerks, your people you work with. A lot of times they are trying to get you fired because they want your job. Like I remember when I was filling out the form, or the after I applied for the job, I had to take some type of written test, and I was filling it out, and I asked one of the sales clerks there about, the job started at minimum wage and with no commission, but anyway, I asked the sales clerk there about raises, about how often we get a raise and how much the raise was, and about the pay. I was asking her questions about the pay there and how much they make, and anyway, and then a little further down on the test, or I read that we're not supposed to ask other employees how much they make. Whoops, I didn't know that. And I told her, oh, I'm sorry, I see on a test here it says we can't talk to each other about our pay. And she said, oh, that's all right. Anyway, she went and told the manager on me, said that, I asked about her pay, and it says on there, I can't ask about pay. And I told the manager, look, I told her I didn't read that yet. I asked her before I read that on there. I was literally going through it, reading it, and I saw it on there after I asked a question, and they were going, They didn't believe me that I didn't read it yet when I asked the question. I mean, good golly, I didn't even have the job yet. I mean, I was just filling out the forms for the information, and I did not know that, but that they thought I was lying and thought I went ahead and asked anyways. Anyway, so she was already stabbing me in the back, and I didn't even have the job yet. But I worked there 2 years, and then employees, they did numerous things to stab me in the back because, well, they wanted to get me fired because they wanted to work more hours. I worked part-time. I worked 3 10-hour days a week, so that's 30 hours a week, 3 days, 10 hours a day. So I worked 2 or 3 10 hours a day a week, actually. And so, some people were trying to get me fired because they wanted to have more hours. And so that, they did some, plots to, try to get me fired. I remember when we would wrap presents for employees, would have to go into the back room to wrap their presents because we didn't have somebody on staff to just wrap presents. So Christmas time, was really hectic, and so I remember one time I was in the back room wrapping a package for a customer, and we ran out of double stick tape, and we love the double stick tape because you can just wrap presents real quick, just go, and you're done, basically. But we didn't have the double stick tape, so it's going to take me longer, fold it over, and use a single side tape. So when I saw we were out of double stick tape, I said the D word under my breath. I whispered it, and we weren't allowed to cuss at work. We're not allowed to cuss in front of the customers because it's a Christian store, and I'm in agreement with that. You should not cuss at work, I believe, in front of customers, especially at a Christian store. But I said it whispered under my breath in the back room, and only 2 employees on each side of me heard me, and then girl next to me that heard me, she went and the girl that did that, I had heard her use profanity outside of work lots of times, and I just thought that was such an overreaction. I said, what's the big deal? I've heard you cuss before. Anyway, she continued going, and oh my gosh, and she wouldn't stop. And then she went into the manager's office, told on me, and the manager had to talk with me. He said, "Did you cuss? Did you say the D word?" And I said, "Yes, I said it under my breath when I was wrapping her present." And she said, "Yeah, you shouldn't use that." Anyway, I got a long lecture. So, point learned, you should, really watch your back and be careful around fellow employees. And, and they pulled other crazy shenanigans to try to get me fired too, which I won't go into detail on because it's just too crazy. But, and our manager, she was, very difficult too, because she would just yell at us just all the time, and she would throw temper tantrums. And she used to buy aspirin, and kept it in the kitchen for us to use if we had a headache. And then one time she complained because she went to get the aspirin because she had a headache. She had just bought a bottle, and she went in there in the kitchen to open it up, and she saw there was only 1 aspirin left in the entire bottle, and she just recently bought the bottle and hadn't even used it yet. So she called us all in for a meeting, had a talk with us, said we were taking advantage by using up all the aspirin. And the reason that everybody was taking aspirin was because she gave us a headache because she yelled at all of us so much. And so, and I was pretty happy-go-lucky when I started the job. I really enjoyed my job, and the manager asked me if I was stressed out at the job. I said, "Oh no." She said, "Well, why not?" She said, "This is a high-stress job. I'm surprised you're not stressed out." Well, she ended up making me very, very stressed out. And I could tell you things. She wouldn't let us take a sick day unless we got somebody to come in for us, take her place. Somebody that wasn't working that on the schedule that day. We had to call around, see if someone would come in, and if we couldn't get someone to come in for us, then we couldn't take a sick day. Well, I had filled in for people on occasion, I came in and worked for them when they wanted a day off. And then one time I really was sick, I was throwing up, and no one would come in for me. And then after I came in for them numerous times, no one would come in for me. Well, of course not. And so, I came into work while vomiting, and she told me, "Oh, if you have to throw up while you're with a customer, just go in the bathroom and use the trash can." So I was like, okay. And there were several times I did have to run in the bathroom, use the trash can, throw up while waiting on a customer. And then another clerk would have to help with that customer while I was in the bathroom, throw them up, and then I'd come back out, finish with the customer, and the customer would be saying, "Why on earth are you here when you're throwing up?" I said, "Well, the manager told me I couldn't take a day off, if I can't get someone to fill in for me." So, and they were saying, "She makes you come to work while you're throwing up?" And I said, "Yeah, she does. She does that to us. She did it to other employees, too." And I seen other employees, coming to work while they're throwing up. That's just crazy. And anyway, one time came to work when I had laryngitis, and I obviously couldn't talk to the customers. I was wheezing under my breath. And anyway, customers, they were, really nice and considerate, and very understanding that I had laryngitis. They were very sweet. But some of them asked me, "Can't you take the day off?" And then so I was like, "No, but that's okay." And then there were a couple other employees that had laryngitis too at times, and they didn't get to take the day off either. But my father got mad about it. He actually called my boss, and he said, "Can't you even give her the day off? She got laryngitis. She can't even talk. You can't even give her the day off." And manager got sassy with him, and she said, "Sharon's a big girl. She can ask for herself." And I did ask, but anyway. But my father blew up when she said that. He let her have it with both barrels. So you don't talk to me that way, and he just really told her off. And my father had a talk with me. He said, "Don't work for her anymore." He said, it was just a minimum wage job, and he said, "Don't put up with it." He said, "Don't work for her." He said, "I will support you. Don't work for her. I will support you. I will support you. Don't work for her." But anyway, I made up my decision that I was going to go ahead and continue to work, because I knew that my father could not support me forever, because he obviously would not live forever. But I didn't put up with it for too much longer before I left there. And then also the owner of James Avery Jewelry Stores, James Avery himself, he's got a temper too. He was known for yelling at employees and barreling through the double doors, slamming the double doors, and he was married. I don't remember how many times, but 2 or 3 times anyway. So he left his wife and married an employee and on, and so. But anyway, it was just a very tense environment. So, I, yeah, like I was saying, I eventually left there, and but the manager, she when I left, she cried when I left, which at least showed she was a decent person. So, but you know, there was just so much tension. She said, I wouldn't blame you if you left. She was kind of hinting for me to leave. So, and then I found out late. Well, I found out when I started the job. She had told me that people there got burned out, and she said people usually worked there for 2 years and left. Well, I found out why, because she usually fires them, or she tells them to leave or I'm going to fire you. So anyway, on my resume I put that I left working at that jewelry store to continue college, and that wasn't a lie. I did, continue college, and that sounds a lot better on a resume than, well, all this was happening, so anyway, it sounds a lot nicer, saying, I left to continue my education in college, and that was true. That my employers, they don't need to know all those details, and yeah, it's better they don't. And then another Karen in my life was my mother-in-law. Oh my gosh, the woman, she's a tough old woman, and she's just she was a bully, and she had this big old truck, and she had got a brush guard put in front of her truck, and she'd be driving. She'd say, "I got my brush guard. You better get the blank out of my way." And then she would yell at my father-in-law. They would yell, cuss each other out just all day long. F you, old man. F you, old woman, and just back and forth. And anyway, she bullied me for 20 years. Used me as a scapegoat. If anything went wrong, it was Sharon's fault. And on Christmas, she would start a fight, and my husband would tell me not to say anything back. And so I quit saying anything back, and then she would still blow up and yell at me. And then I would, lose it and say some little thing back. And then, my husband would blame it on me, say, Sharon ruined Christmas because she said something back to my mother. And so, anyway, after 20 years of being bullied by her, and it was terrible, terrible, terrible. We would drive from, we moved to we're from Austin, then we moved to San Antonio, and we'd still drive from San Antonio to go visit the in-laws once a month. Then we moved to Houston, then we'd drive 3.5 hours with the kids in the car once a month to visit the in-laws, and they'd treat me terribly, and I'd stay in my room and cry most of the time usually. So after 20 years of this, I talked to a support group at church, and they told me just, okay, try not, they said pray about it and try not going to your mother's-in-laws, try not going to your in-laws on Thanksgiving. And I said, okay. And then I told my husband I wasn't going to go Thanksgiving, and then he was all upset. And then he went to Austin to stay with his parents with their kids without me on Thanksgiving. And so then he came back, and he said, he was real upset. He said that he wasn't going to go around his parents anymore. I said, why? What happened? And he said, because she's yelling at me now instead of just you. I was like, wow. And then he apologized for not defending me for all these years and not being a better husband. And that was just really sweet of him. And he didn't go to their house on Christmas. We had the most peaceful Christmas we ever had at home, just me and my husband and our kids. And it was just so nice. And then we continued that, and it just made Christmas, Thanksgiving, the holidays just so much less stressful. And a lot of people commit suicide over the holidays, especially during Christmas season. And I recommend you get that stress out of your life. And then another Karen, or two Karens I have in my life, are my neighbors on both sides. They can be really difficult, and so I just pretty much stay in my backyard here and stay away from them. And under quarantine and lockdown, it's hard not to be able to get out much, but here I am, just trying to enjoy a peaceful life. And so, dealing with Karens, just to summarize it, when they're out in the neighborhood and stuff, you avoid them when you can. And then if you have to deal with them, and then just, let them talk, let them vent until they're calmed down, and then try to paraphrase what they're saying, and then just, see what you can do to make their day better. Like if they're a customer, like at work, we would give them a coupon for ice cream or something, just, something just to make their day better. And a kind word turns away wrath. You want to keep it sweet. So anyway, that's about all I have to say, and thought I'd walk around and show you the yard here and the gazebo. Yeah, this is my yard, no Karens allowed. Where I come to de-stress. Hear the birds singing. Oh, and there's a pond across the street from my house too. It's really nice. And here we are in the gazebo. So, just try to relax and stay away from those difficult people if you can avoid it. Take care. Bye.